So, anybody got a question? It was suggested to me that maybe I didn't deal with Emily's remarks thoroughly enough or something like that last week. And so I went and looked at the tape, and I thought I did.
I don't even recall what I asked. I thought you
Yeah,
answered me.
I can't right now. It was something about you said that when you meditated and distractions came, that when you noted them, they just kind of went away.
Yes. And is that normal for them to go away without pushing them away?
Yeah, that's really good. I mean, that's one of the benefits of, uh, mindfulness meditation is that you don't get dragged into all these potential scenarios or something like that. The mind wants to go a lot of, it wants, it loves variety, and it wants to go to all these different places. But if you're being mindful, it just doesn't work as good as when you're not being mindful.
I would say the first several months of doing it, it's very challenging
Yeah,
because I felt like I could not stop the thoughts, and then I'd go down a rabbit hole,
yeah,
and I didn't understand how to stop it. And I guess I was trying to stop them before.
yeah. That
And
doesn't
now
work.
it doesn't work at all. So I thought, like, why is it now that I'm just labeling it's stopping it? It's not even, it's like it disappears.
David,
And
oh, we lost your audio for a minute.
oh, it's because you're getting better, more experienced. You've been doing it longer, and you're doing it correctly. If you get a thought that you don't like, no, not liking, or wanting it to go away, or if you want it to go away, note that. Not liking, wanting it to go away. The thing is to always stay just with the mindfulness. It's just, you're just observing what the mind and the body are doing and labeling it. If you have a distracting thought, then thinking, not liking, wanting it to go away, and then you go back to rising and falling. And then if it keeps persisting, then you go back thinking, not liking, rather than trying to orchestrate what goes on in your mind. You just know what's going on in your mind. And it's amazing how powerful it is. It's just an amazing tool, and that's, the having distractions, and there's really nothing in insight meditation, there's really nothing that is a distraction. So that word distraction is kind of a little misleading. You are trying to stay on the rising and falling, but if something else comes up, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you're not doing rising and falling. If you're being mindful of whatever came up, that's the same thing as being mindful of rising and falling. The rising and falling is just kind of home port. Like fishermen go out in their boats and they go all different places, but they always come back to the same harbor and into their berth, where they always dock their boat. That's what home port is. So, I mean, that's what rising and falling is. It's kind of just the same idea. It's okay to go out, but when you're done going out, you go back to home base, home port. So, and I've been trying to think, I've been thinking about the difference between like samatha meditation and insight meditation. I'm thinking about ways to describe what they are, and samatha meditation or concentration meditation. The mind is linear, it's been called like a string of beads. So with concentration meditation, you try and make every bead be the same, basically. If you're doing loving kindness, then you want all the mind moments. You can't do it, but I mean, you want all the mind moments to be about loving kindness, not about thinking or itching or any of that stuff. You don't pay attention to any of that stuff. You pay attention to the meditation subject, like loving kindness. And then what concentration is that string of beads, they all become the same. They're all a repetition. And that's concentration. That means, then your mind is occupied continually with one thing. Whereas in insight meditation, where does the concentration come from? It's not, the concentration isn't as intense as in a samatha meditation, a concentration meditation, but you do get a lot of concentration. And I'm thinking, well, what are you repeating? You're repeating mindfulness. That's what I think anyways. The mindfulness becomes the central feature of the string of beads, of each next moment. Mindfulness is the dominant quality. And then the subjects of the mindfulness become lesser. That's why when you notice a distraction and it just goes away, your mindfulness is stronger than the distraction. Your mindfulness is in charge at that point. And the so-called distraction or, wandering mind or something doesn't have the strength that the mindfulness has. So the continued mindfulness from moment to moment is the predominant concentrating factor. That's the best I've been able to come up with. But people get really advanced insights and even attainments, and they're not noting rising and falling at that time. They're noting, frequently paining is a common thing that stands out and becomes a real concentrating factor. If you've been sitting a long time and your knee is just screaming with pain, and you're noting painting, you can get really concentrated. But I don't know, I can't think of anybody that got really high insights and or attainments noting rising and falling. So I mean, you don't have to feel stuck with rising and falling, or like, oh, I'm not doing very well if I go away from it or something. That's not the case. It's really a preliminary way to start building concentration and mindfulness. And it's a very the rising and falling of the abdomen is very easily seen. You know, if you can't see it, you can put your hand on your stomach and feel it, you know, and it's just very, as compared to the in and out breath at the nose tip is not easy to see. It's a very subtle, and people make mistakes with the nose tip. They follow the breath. They don't stay there. They go in. They follow the breath in and out or something, which you're not supposed to do. And the other thing that I feel about the nose tip is it's too close to the brain. And people tend to think that their brain is them, you know. So you got this really, you know, and the stomach is far away, and it's not associated with thinking or emotions or anything like the brain is. It's just a good neutral sort of kind of distant place, impersonal. That's why it's good. And frequently, if somebody has been doing nose tip anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, and they start doing vipassana, I'll try and get them to do rising and falling. Like get away from, okay, this is a different thing you're doing, so that they don't stay with whatever they were doing with the breathing at their nose tip. That's a small point, but it's usually good to get them on the rising and falling. So that's how I think it works.
Jim, you need to unmute. Were you saying something? You need to unmute.
Oh, I
Oh,
wonder
there-
how.
I muted when we were meditating.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. Okay, now we can hear you.
Were you saying something, Jim?
no, I wanted to ask you something. No,
Okay. Oh, good.
it seems that like when we were meditating just now, and you're noting, and your consciousness is with the noting, but there's something volumetric going on, because I'm noting, I'm feeling the same, but then when it was over, I get this shock.
Yeah. I didn't want to
Yeah.
stop.
And it doesn't seem like I was, I mean, there's like a depth involved that the noting doesn't notice,
Yes.
or
Yeah, there's a peace, there's a tranquility, there's concentration, there's a kind of stillness. I mean, you would think, and people say, oh, the noting's too much, you know, it gets in the way or everything, or sort of like that. But it's actually really,
yeah, no, I didn't mean it got in the way.
no, I know that. I said people,
Oh.
some people, yeah.
Yeah.
They think the noting gets in the way, but actually it's a really good vehicle for getting deeper. And you're right, there is, you know, if you're succeeding at it, at mindfulness meditation, you're going to get results that are like depth and tranquility. And even though you're busy, sort of, You know, it seems like you're busy, but you're not really, you're just aware. I mean, you're just being mindful, which isn't really busy. If you're trying too hard, it's oppressive, you know. If you're not doing it right, it won't work as well. But if you're really practicing mindfulness correctly, it's a very powerful, uh, very powerful thing. And, you know, the momentary concentration or access concentration that's developed is not as deep as jhana, you know, according to the books and everything, but it's pretty deep. Just because it's not as deep as something else, it's still, you know, substantially deep. You can get very concentrated, and the thing about the five balancing factors is you can kind of balance them when all the factors are weak. But if you balance them when all the five factors are strong, you got something really going on. I mean, then that's very deep. You know, you have strong mindfulness, strong concentration, strong wisdom. And that's powerful. It's not, it's way different than so-called normal consciousness. I mean, that's why I try and be mindful almost all the time, is because it's a superior state of mind to, you know, to just mindless. And the more you do it, the, you know, even if it seems not that significant, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more, the deeper you're going, even though you're just doing it now while I walk to the corner and back, or to the post box, or, you know, while I'm washing the dishes, I'm being aware that my hands are wet and I'm feeling, you know, I'm standing, I'm feeling the sponge, and, you know, whatever you're doing, every one of those moments is adding. It's not like, and you know, then if you don't meditate for a week or something, and then it's hard to get going again, but you haven't lost. When you start again, you're more developed than, because of the intermittent stuff that you did. It's a real cumulative thing. To get really, you know, advanced takes longer periods of time of continuous mindfulness. You know, that's what really moves the process along, is if you can spend, you know, 2 hours or 2 days, or, you know, whatever you can get. And that's why retreats or meditation centers, that's why people, you know, get really big results there, is because they're doing it continuously for maybe, you know, a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, or some for months, you know. When I went to my teacher's center to do my first formal retreat, I got there and I got in my closet-sized room, and I was a monk, so I wasn't there for a specific amount of time. Like I wasn't a school teacher on vacation and I only had 10 days or something like that. Because, if you go to a 10-day retreat, a lot of people work out a system of how they can survive for 10 days. If there's a known end to this process. But when you go there and you're a monk, you don't have to leave, which means it's really good because you might as well get it over with. I mean, how long do you want this to take? Kind of is the thinking that comes to you. Like, am I going to like drag this out over 6 months or 6 weeks, or which is an incentive to just really apply yourself. And that's the benefit of even a 1 week or 10-day or 2-week retreat or something. If you're there for that long, unless you want to just survive, then you kind of realize that you might as well, really go for it. And that makes it more rewarding, less painful, a lot of things. Yeah, now you can't really go to a meditation center anymore. I mean, I think Barry and Spirit Rock and those places and Big Bear and all that, they're set up for like dormitory sort of, everybody packed in a building in their rooms, sharing bathrooms and stuff like that. And that doesn't really fit the current parameters. The perfect setup is like Pema Series, where everyone has their own cottage with their own bathroom. They don't have their own kitchen, but I think you can kind of work around that. I mean, it's the food is just kind of cafeteria style, and it's in an outdoor sort of, I mean, there's a roof over it, but it's not all walled and enclosed and doors and windows and all that kind of stuff. It's open air. So you could just go there, get your food, and go back to your cottage. That's pretty good. And it's free, but you can't go to Sri Lanka because they have all kinds of travel restrictions and COVID problems and quarantines and all that kind of stuff. So, but a lot of Deepama's students got enlightened in a terrible old apartment building in Calcutta with 3 kids and like that. It's still like, how a lot of them were women and they were like housewives with children, stay at home, with a husband that goes to work, and they're there with the kids and the laundry and meals and all that kind of stuff. And they still succeeded. So that's really good news, After everybody went to sleep, some of them, would stay up for another 3 hours of meditation, or they get up really early in the morning and meditate for 2 or 3 hours before anybody else wakes up. It all depends. I was telling this to someone who was saying, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work for me," and all that kind of stuff. And I said, it depends on how, I don't know, I was going to use the word urgent, but I don't know if that's a good word. it depends on how important or significant this is to your emotional needs. If you're if you're plenty happy the way you are, then you're not going to and everything's just fine, then probably your incentive isn't going to be that great. But if you have a hard time sleeping, or you've got anxiety issues, or or you find your mind is oppressive or something like that, well, then you're going to be more have more incentive to get results. And as you apply yourself and you see, oh, this is working. That's what I said to Emily last week when Emily, when you described, oh, when I know distractions, they go away. I said, it's working. The meditation's working. That's good news. That's what we want, is less drama and struggle mentally and all that. And so, if things that would normally drag you away or get you upset or something like that, if you just note them and they go away, then that's great. And also, you learn. If you note something and you see it pass away, your opinion of it is going to change. It's like, well, it's just this kind of thing that just sort of arose, and then just went away. It's not this major thing that I have to invest all kinds of emotion or something in. And also, it's not me. It's just the mind doing what it does. So then you get detachment, and that leads to equanimity, which, evenly balanced mind, which is one of the goals, equanimity. So then, stuff happens, or, thoughts occur, or sadness about something, or something like that. And if you have equanimity to some degree, then it's just life. It's not this huge thing that you have to respond to in, intense anguish or anger or anything. It's just more arising and passing away. And, when the Buddha was getting ready to pass away, Ananda was all upset, really crying. And he said, haven't I told you that everything that arises passes away? Like, including me, the Buddha, that includes me too, all of it. And you. And everything, your car passes away. Your house passes away. It burns down, or if it doesn't pass away, it needs a new roof or a new sewer line or rewiring, or it's everything is, nothing stays, it's everything's passing away. It's arising and passing away. So when you see enough of that, you get used to it, and then you develop equanimity to some extent. I mean, if your loved one dies or something, you're going to get sad, but you'll have more perspective on it and more mental balance, and you probably won't suffer as much as you might have if you didn't, know what you know, kind of. So, yeah, all the benefits of mindfulness meditation.